The Stone Initiation. Gargoyles of Stonehaven, Book 1. By Debbie Cassidy. Narrated by Jameson Adams and Rachel LeBlanc.
Chapter 1. There was a boogeyman in my closet. Again. It was the third time this month, and I was losing my patience. I yanked open the door and stared at the mournful-eyed creature huddled in the corner of the dark cupboard. "Seriously, Derek, again?" He moaned softly and hung his head. "What happened now?" He sighed. The sounds he made, although incoherent and downright frightening to anyone else, made sense to me. Those bastards. I swear if I get my hands on them, I'll extinguish the lot of them. He looked up sharply. I know you want to be friends with them, but they're no good, Derek. You're better than them." He was. He was sweet and kind and totally not boogeyman material. But then, he was mine. I'd created him, after all. He'd come from the mind of a lonely child in need of a companion, and now he didn't fit in with all the other monsters under the bed, and it was my fault. I held out my hand. "Hey, you want some hot chocolate?" "Yes, you can have marshmallows." He took my hand and squeezed gently, his smile revealing rows of razor teeth. Gosh, he was the sweetest. He said softly. "Yeah, I love you too, buddy." Boogeymen, the thing in the lake, monsters under the bed, and shadow men. They were all real, all the same thing, tulpas. A human's imagination could produce magic, and collectively, well, the evidence was all around us. Killing the creatures, however, was a little harder. It involved imagining a weakness into being and then having the masses believe it. Back in the day before the Grey messed up our world, the Guardians had used the internet to keep these creatures under control, feeding information to the masses that helped our stone protectors to take down these shadowy threats. There was still internet, but now it was called the Vine. It was spotty and unpredictable and frustrating as heck. Cell service was also unreliable, but we were alive, and that's what mattered. The details of the Grey threat that changed our world were spotty, but that was probably deliberate. The less humans knew, the less chance that they would somehow imagine something similar into existence. I led Derek into the kitchen, where the sun was making an arch through the sky, getting ready to sleep for the day. He had never quite caught on to the come out only at night part. The huge kitchen clock showed it to be a minute after 5. I had a date across town in a couple of hours, a small hunt organized by the locals that involved a nest of vampires that needed clearing out. Tulpas weren't the only threat in our world. Vampires, werewolves, and other demonic things existed, but most of those inhabited the city beyond the Rimlands, a place warded by powerful Magi magic. It was a safe place filled with order and rules, but it was no longer taking admissions. We were on our own out here in Old Town, and it worked just fine. Derek made a sound of inquiry. "Almost done, buddy." I shot him a smile. Yep, I had plenty of time to give him a pep talk. He was my responsibility, and I adored him. He waited patiently while I made his milky drink and popped it in front of him. He said. "You're welcome." "Yeah, buddy, it sucks, but that's what they're made to do. You can't change that. You can't make the others stop scaring kids." He sighed and plucked a marshmallow from his mug before popping it into his mouth. I could have extinguished him a long time ago. Being half gargoyle afforded me some abilities, and extinguishing tulpas was one of them. But aside from the fact that I loved the moany freak, using my abilities would expose what I was to the people of Old Town, and to my friends. And then it would only be a matter of time before the pureblood gargoyles found me. I was sure they kept tabs on spikes of power like extinguishing. I made sure that when I hunted, I did it the old-fashioned way. It wasn't easy keeping my abilities in check when people around me needed help, but I'd learned to use the tried and tested methods to take down the monsters. They seemed to work on the creatures roaming the rim, although I'd heard the variants that occupied this city were a stronger, ancient breed to the ones out here. The only creatures we had no defense against were the Grey Knights. Brrr? Yeah, I was totally listening. I rolled my eyes. Okay, so I zoned out for a moment. Sorry. He reached across the table and placed his hand over mine. Romi. The mention of my brother made my chest tight. I hadn't seen him for almost 8 weeks now. It was the longest he'd gone without a visit, and I was beginning to worry, which was ridiculous, of course. Romi's fine. He's always fine. He's probably on some secret mission for the Guardians. My gargoyle sibling was an elite, a pureblood, part of the highest-ranked unit in the Stonehaven Guardians, one of 5 all born into the most powerful bloodlines. He was older than me by a decade, but despite being busy training initiates, he'd taken care of me after my human mother died, finding me a home and checking in every few weeks. Until now. He was fine. I was being ridiculous. My phone rang shrilly. I snatched it up and answered quickly. Hey. Cameron, where are you? There was an impatient snap to Terry's voice that instantly had my back up, but I squashed my annoyance when I noted the time, still a minute after 5. The damn thing had stopped again. The low-grade buzz of power in my limbs should have warned me that the sun had set. A quick glance out of the window confirmed it. Terry, I'm on my way. Liar. I winced. The clock stopped. Get a fucking watch. I'm allergic to nickel. Ugh, just get here. Give me 30 minutes. Do not go in without me. We're not suicidal. No, they were savvy and smart, and they knew success against a nest required numbers. I dropped a kiss on Derek's cloaked head. I'll be back soon. You want to come? I arched a brow. Will you help kill them? He hung his head and peered up at me. No, snuggles won't help, not unless you plan to smother them to death. He looked horrified. Yeah, that's what I thought. I'll be back soon. Watch your favorite cartoons while I'm gone. There's some discs on the top of the pile by the TV stand. I grabbed my keys and my backpack filled with steaks and holy water before heading for the door. It was time to kick some fanged butt. Chapter 2. The war had raged for a decade where our country had been decimated, buildings brought down and the economy all but destroyed, but aided by the Guardians, humanity had rebuilt. Still, there were parts of Old Town that were in ruins, the buildings too broken to be fixed, all that history and architecture wiped out. The only evidence of what had been could be found in faded photographs and old documentaries. But despite the ruins and the rubble, despite the patched-up, windowless buildings, there was a beauty to this world, a defiance that gave the finger to any force daring to bring it down. I took the underground passages, once occupied by whizzing trains, and now a graveyard of rusted metallic frames suitable only for foot patrol. Brightly lit, it was a passage that protected against the windy, stormy elements of our city. People trudged, shuffled, walked, and jogged through the tunnels. Homeless people pushed their belongings in trolleys, woolen hats pulled low over their eyes, pink swollen digits poking out from fingerless gloves. It was cold in Old Town. Always so cold. But I'd heard that the north, closest to the fringe, was sweltering. Thanks to my half-gargoyle constitution, I barely felt the chill. Still, I tugged my coat tighter around me, acting the part of pure human. People respected the Guardians, pure-blood gargoyles that protected the rim, but a half-human, half-gargoyle was something less tolerated.